Good afternoon, ladies. Today we're going to talk about making the best of what we have and making do without. Now, I know that some of us are really struggling to find eggs, and of course eggs are what most of our cooking involves the use of. Now, that doesn't mean you can't make your family a delicious cake. Now, I've got a farmhouse recipe for you today, which I'm sure you will enjoy. And it is a total egg-free cake, so that when you are out of not only your fresh eggs, as Mr. Nadine was talking to you about earlier, but even when your packet of dried eggs have run out as well. Now, of course, that doesn't mean we can't make items, because we have a very good substitute. Most of you have got bicarbonate of soda in your larder, your pantry, or like myself in my wonderful easy work cabinet. And of course, that is an egg replacement. It gives the rising nature of eggs and the aerating of eggs without actually using your precious egg. Now, I've first of all taken 8 ounces of self-raising flour and given that a good sifting. Now, you can use your national wheatmeal flour, but of course you will have to add a couple of teaspoons of baking powder with every 8 ounces to turn it into self-raising. I'm now adding just 2 ounces of dripping. Now, 2 ounces to 8 ounces of flour is a very low fat ratio, and that is because I'm going to also in this cake add another ingredient which we do have an awful lot of, and like our hens and our eggs, we will find outside in the garden, and that of course is wonderful potato peat. Ladies, he is the best friend you can have in your kitchen, because he, like bicarbonate of soda, is also a replacement for that ingredient that we are short of as well, and that is of course the fat. Now, I've used just 2 ounces of dripping, which of course I have clarified from the meat that I cooked last weekend, but you can use any fat that you have in your larder, margarine or lard, or as I say, your dripping from your meat ration. Very easy to rub in lightly into that 8 ounces of flour. I'm now going back to good old potato peat, and what I will say to you is, whenever you're boiling potatoes, always do a little extra. Mash those potatoes without of course any butter or any milk, just plain boiled potatoes, and mash them as finely as you can, getting out as many of the lumps as possible. Then keep them in the larder. They'll stay good for a couple of days, because mashed potato is one of those ingredients that you need to use in so many other dishes to make the fat that you have go further. And I'm taking 4 ounces of cold, dry mashed potato, in other words, with no liquid adding. And I'm also going to now rub in the mashed potato into the flour and the dripping. Now, this won't combine totally, but that won't matter, because when you come to the final mix, that should ensure that the potato is evenly distributed amongst the cake mixture. Now, this potato is mixing in very well actually. It does of course depend on the variety that you've got. I know some people at times complain bitterly about the mushiness of their potatoes. So try and choose a variety that gives you a good dry mash. And there we have so far your flour, your dripping and your mash. I'm now going to add some sugar and just a small amount again of that precious ration that we've got. Excuse me while I just get another spoon. I'm only going to use 2 ounces of sugar because the fruit that I'll be putting in our farmhouse cake is very sweet as well. And if you're using dried fruit in cakes, you can cut down on the amount of sugar that you're using. Now, this recipe also calls for a little spice, and I'm going to pop in about half a teaspoon of mixed ground spice. Give that a mix too. And I'm then going to add my fruit. Now, ladies, of course, with the points coupons at the moment, I'm sure that you've noticed that our dried fruit has different points value. Now, of course, our raisins, which are so hard to come by and have to be imported, they at the present time are 16 points per pound. However, dates are much lower, and it's these that I've used today. They're very sweet and they're only 12 points a pound at the present time, so saving you 4 points for every pound of dried fruit. If you did want to use prunes, of course you can do as well. They're even lower in points, so even a better bet because of course they're home produced. Now I've chopped the dates finely and I'm going to sprinkle that in. Give it a mix up, and now we want to add the liquid. Now I'm sure you'll look at this and think, but no egg, how can that be a delicious cake? Well, I've taken a teacupful of warm milk, and this is when we use the raising agent, which is half of a teaspoon of bicarbonate of soda. And this will do all the job, perhaps without quite the richness, but will give the raising and the thickening agent that your usual egg would too. So stir in half a teaspoon of bicarbonate of soda into that teacup full of warm milk. Add gradually, stirring. Do this quickly, of course, because the warmth and the liquid will react very quickly with the bicarbonate, and you want to make the most of that and not waste that raising time. Give it a very good beat, and then we're going to turn that into a greased cake tin, and that's going to pop in the oven for about 1 to 1.5 hours. Keep an eye on it, ladies, and make sure your oven temperature is about a moderate oven. Pop that in, and hopefully after 1.5 hours we will see what a delicious farmhouse cake for all the family we have made, and yet using none of our shell eggs or dried egg either. So just smooth the surface. You can put a little dent in the middle to try and prevent it doming too much, and then that's into the oven for about an hour, hour and a half. So we'll come back to that later, and we'll also show you the recipe so that you can make this at home. And it's about an hour now, and I can smell the cake. It smells delicious. That means that it's cooked. Oh, and look at that. Absolutely beautifully risen, slightly cracked, never mind. And I think I've put this in a 6-inch cake tin, and it probably could have done with the 7-inch one, but I'm going to leave that in the tin for 5 minutes to cool, then turn it onto a wire rack, and we're going to enjoy that later.